Good evening, everyone. I think it's just gone on to 6 o'clock. It's nice to have you all here on this cold, wintry night. I hope wherever you are, that the weather bomb has not affected you too badly and that you're all safe and warm. Okay, so my name's Vedna Jeevan. I'm the director of the PLT program. And before we get started, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands I'm speaking to you from today here at UNSW, the Bidjigal people of the Eora Nation. And I acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands where you are all living, working and learning. I extend my respects to Aboriginal and Torres Strait elders past and present, and note that this land was never ceded and it is and always will be Aboriginal land. Okay, so welcome everyone. As I said, it's past 6 now and we're ready to go. I'm going to start off with a question that I get asked the most, which is, what are the steps that we need to take to be a lawyer in Australia? So very quickly, I can't see the slides. Okay. Maybe we're having a little bit of a technical glitch, Steph, but I'm hoping that that can be sorted, but I will talk you through it. So I'm just going to take you through the steps that you need to go through to be a lawyer in Australia. Firstly, you need a tertiary qualification, so a law degree or a JD, and it can be part of a double degree. And you also need practical legal training, which is why we're here tonight. And after you get your practical legal training qualification, you can then apply to be admitted to the Supreme Court. In fact, of any state or jurisdiction in Australia. Once you have that certificate, you would then be looking at getting your practicing certificate, and that would be from the Law Society in the jurisdiction that you choose to practice in. So when you've got all of that, you'll be a fully fledged solicitor. And if you then wanted to go on to be a barrister, you'd need to do the bar exams, you'd need to do a reader's course for about a year, and then you'd have your unrestricted practicing certificate, and voila, you're a barrister. But before we get to that stage, we're going to take you back a bit. I'm going to talk a bit about some of the other ways that you can get into practical legal training. And earlier I did say that you need a law degree, which is completed, or a JD completed, but you can also start PLT early. And by that, I mean the early start rules, which allow students to start PLT in their final term or semester of their law degree or JD, provided they have completed all their priestly 11s and they've also done all their electives bar 2. So if you've done your priestly 11s or your core courses and you've done all your electives and you've got 2 left, 2 or less electives left, you can start to do PLT. Just a word of warning, not as anything bad, but just wanted to make sure that you're all clear about early start rules. If you are thinking of doing PLT in your last term or semester, the rules say that you have to have completed, if you're doing a double degree, you have to have completed all your electives and coursework across both degrees, bar 2 electives. So that can be in your law degree or in your other degree, but you can only have a maximum of 2 electives left. Okay, now I've talked enough already. Before we get into the nitty-gritty of the program, I would like to introduce Tristan Yip. Tristan is a Judge's Associate at the ACT Supreme Court. Tristan, you completed your PLT with us only recently, and I'm so delighted to have you here because it's great to get that student perspective about what it actually is like to do PLT. So if you could share a bit about your career journey, you know, a bit about yourself, why you chose to do PLT at UNSW, and you know, the sorts of things that you learned in the program that are equipping you to do the work that you're doing now. Handing over to you, Tristan.
Yes, of course. So thank you, Vedna. And I will just say firstly, my Microsoft Teams display name comes up as someone different. I'm logged in on someone else's computer, but it is me, Tristan. So I started off doing my undergraduate in a field unrelated to law. So I started off doing a Bachelor of Arts majoring in modern history at the ANU. I was particularly interested in modern Chinese history. And while I was studying at the ANU, this opportunity came up to enter a program where you could do the first year of a postgraduate law degree, so a Juris Doctor, at the ANU, while finishing off your last degree of your bachelor's. I suppose at the time I wasn't too enthused about becoming an academic historian, and so I thought I'd give law a try for at least a year, and I enjoyed it so much that I ended up continuing on for another 2 years after I'd finished my first year of the JD. And so I did that for another 2 years, and towards the end of my JD program, another program came up which allowed you, in essence, to apply to the Oxford to complete the Bachelor of Civil Law, which is equivalent to a Masters of Law over here. And to have that completion of the BCL in Oxford credited back to my Juris Doctor. So I applied and I got in. And so from mid 2023 to mid 2024, I completed the BCL at Oxford, and which was an incredible time, and I suppose one of the sort of the most enlightening experiences of my life, particularly in terms of legal studies, and just sort of expanding my horizons about how I perceived the operation of law. So after all that, I had to come back to Australia, and one of the things that was on my to-do list was, of course, that I still needed to complete my PLT. And so at the time when I was choosing to study which program to study for my PLT with, I had a friend who had just graduated from the ANU and had done their PLT for UNSW. And so I asked them what they thought about the UNSW program. And the feedback I got back from them was sort of unexpectedly positive. It was sort of almost fulsome in its praise. And so I took that as quite a strong recommendation that the UNSW program was one of the best in Australia, I suppose, for those purposes. And so I did some more research, and I suppose what really drew me to the UNSW PLT was how sort of oriented it was towards people who work or who have done postgraduate studies, and sort of have a busy life at the same time as studying. Vedna, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yes,
I'm here. Okay. And so how did that work out in terms of, did you find the balance doable?
Yes, I did. And I think one of the strengths of the UNSW course was that it was very easy to juggle around my other commitments, including my job, and that at the same time it felt like it sort of gave me the sort of skills that I needed to then go into legal practice and to sort of work towards then getting my practicing certificate.
Yeah. Tristan, one of the things the students say is that, they think that it actually sounds a little bit long, 20 weeks is longer than the average, but did you find that, most students actually say it goes quite fast, and by the time, they get to the last course and they're getting admitted, it's whiz by.
Yeah.
Did you have that experience?
Yes, I would agree with that. I wasn't counting the months when I was taking my PLT. And I think that's because, the modules within the PLT go by quite fast, and, you're learning a lot while you're taking the coursework that I think you're not going to feel like it's dragging on.
Yeah, no,
I would say.
And the reason why I mentioned that was because one of the reasons is, if you start in, say, February, you could be admitted in July, August. If you start in September and you finish in January, February, you could be admitted by March, April. So, in that sense, it actually does go quite quickly. We're going to hear more from you later, Tristan, and thanks so much for that really interesting and informative overview of your journey. When I hear about your story, I want to do PLT and, the path that you took myself. So, thanks for sharing that with us. We'll come back to you shortly, but I'm just going to take the students through the way that we've designed the program, so to build on what Tristan has said. So next slide, please. Okay. Well, maybe we should have a bit more of a chat, Tristan.
Of course. I gather the slide not working.
Oh no, here we go,
Oh,
here we go. Okay, you're off the hook again. All right. So just in terms of what we've designed, the way that we put this together was we were a bunch of PLT academics, and we saw what was needed in PLT. We saw what was missing, and so we were given 2.5 years to put this together. And you know, that's really very generous by any university standards, and that's something that I really admire about UNSW, is that they put their money where their mouth was, and you know, supported us to really put together a program that would upskill students. So as they head into practice. So what we came up with was evidence-based and researched, and we found that a program that had 40 days of workplace experience, not 75 or 80 like others, was the right mix. We start off the program with an immersive, which is a 5-day series of workshops, and this is one of the parts of the program that's that students like a lot. In fact, it gets one of the highest ratings in our program. And it's really the bread and butter of legal practice. You know, we have barristers coming in, taking the students through advocacy. We have negotiation in interviewing. We have sessions on professional judgment, because we know that students have difficulties, you know, trying to make that transition from law student to legal practitioner. You know, how long should a letter of advice be? You know, those basic sorts of things that sometimes trip us up. So we do sessions on professional judgment, trying to upskill students rather than just doing what the standards require us to do. Okay, so once you've finished the immersive, and that immersive is 5 days, as I said, 3 days online, and then you have the choice of coming into campus for 2 days, which is the advocacy part with the barristers, or you can continue online. And that's the way that it's going to be for 2025. In 2026, the LPAB may have different ideas, but we'll keep you informed if that does change. So for the moment, immersive 5 days, 3 days online, where you're required to be online synchronously, and then 2 days of the advocacy, either in person or online. So really that means you could do this program from anywhere in the world. It's very flexible in that sense. And once you finish the immersive, that's the only part of the program where you're required to be online from 9 to 5. The rest of the program is much more self-paced, and that is 19 weeks of coursework, and it's, I'll show you in the next slide the way that the program is structured. But basically, the way that we designed this program was to get industry experts in, subject matter experts and leading practitioners to come in and design this program and get it to where students needed to be in this era of legal practice, with all the challenges that we're facing. So what we designed was a course that has 4 core subjects, and that first one is skills and practice, where you do your immersive. First 5 days is in the immersive, and the rest of it is self-paced. And each of these courses goes for roughly about a month, and it's sequential in that sense. So you're doing one course at a time. And we found that this is one way that students can take their time and reflect on this experience without getting stressed before they go into practice. We want this period to be something that, you know, enlivens you towards practice, not something that, you know, tires you out. So if you're working, you know, you just remember that you'll be doing one course at a time, and that's how we scaffold your learning. So once you do skills in practice, as I said, that's your bread and butter. You then move on to values in practice, which is your trust and office accounting, and it's your ethics and professional responsibility. Another course that the students really love. We've kind of done some bespoke stuff in here with my colleagues Annika and Pamela and Maura, and as I said, the students really love this part of the program as well. Okay, we then move on to litigation, and that covers all the competencies for civil litigation practice. So that'll be your 3rd month, and then you'll finish off with transactional practice in your cores, and that covers property practice and commercial and corporate practice. So once you've done your cores, you then move on to your electives, and this is the only time in the program when you would be doing 2 courses at once. So you get the choice of any of those electives there: admin law, banking and finance, consumer law practice, criminal law practice, employment and industrial relations practice, or family law practice. So that's, as I said, done over a month, and you do both those subjects together. Okay, just a bit about what you can expect during the coursework. The best way to describe it is, as I said, it's quite self-paced. So what we'd be doing is releasing all the materials to you, and those materials consist of practiques that we've developed. These are online modules that are really a one-stop shop for that particular competency or that particular practice area. So, for example, if you're doing, let's say, conveyancing, we would give you all the materials. You'd be working through these materials. So there might be videos, there might be activities, there might be something to read, but not, copious amounts of reading, very targeted reading, because we know that in practice, that's what's needed. And so it's a very engaging way of doing your coursework, with us supporting you through that. So it is self-paced, as I said, and has lots of engaging parts in it that really brings that area alive. So once you've done your practique, you then have the opportunity to meet with your webinar host, which is a practitioner mentor, a specialist that we bring in to take you through the coursework, and to talk to you about the assessments that are due and how practice in this area operates. And once you have that webinar, you then have an opportunity to undertake an assessment. And that assessment is everything that you can be expected to do in practice. We don't have any essays, we don't have any exams. These are written submissions, oral submissions, letters of advice, things that, as I said, you will be expected to do in practice. So in that way, it's very different to what you've been doing at uni. You don't have 2x2 seminars or 3-hour webinars, 3-hour lectures. This is self-paced. You get a webinar a week to support you in your coursework, but it really is up to you how much you want to deep dive into the material that we provide. So, for instance, if you are someone who takes, who grasps concepts quickly, is particularly disciplined, motivated, you're looking at probably around 15 hours per week in terms of your commitment to this course or this program. So if you're working part-time or full-time, we would say that you'd need a couple of nights per week and some work on the weekends. And that's the way that we've found that it's actually quite flexible and manageable. If you're someone who likes to take a deeper dive, or you like to take your time with coursework, then you're looking at about 20 to 25 hours per week. And that is, still doable. You might have caring responsibilities, or you might not be in work at the moment, and that would suit you. So it's very flexible in that sense. Okay, next slide, please. So in terms of, that's the coursework of the program, but the program also requires you to do workplace experience, as I said, and that is for 8 weeks, 40 days. And as I said, other programs have up to 16 weeks. The reason why ours is 8 weeks is because it would have been very easy for us to put a lot of that learning into workplace experience, which is a cheaper way for us to do it, but we didn't want to do that. Our program is 20 weeks of coursework, and we make absolutely no apologies for that, because that is the right amount of time for students to undertake their PLT and not be stressed as they go into practice, as I said. So in our program, you have assessments roughly about once every week, whereas in other programs you can have up to 3, which we know that that stresses students. So then coming back to this work integrated learning and workplace experience, as I said, you're required to do 40 days, and of those 40 days, you can have up to 25 of those days credited before you take the program, if you've done work in a law or law-related area, and provided it meets the criteria. So we've got on our website the brochure, as well as the checklist for workplace experience. So please have a look at that, or if you have any questions, I'm also happy to answer those in the chat today, or you can make a time to meet with me, or you can email us. So in terms of the work integrated learning, There's the immersive. As I said, you have opportunities to practice your negotiation, your client interviewing, and your advocacy skills in that first week. But we also give students the opportunity to undertake workplace experience at Kingsford Legal Centre. Kingsford Legal Centre is a community legal centre that's been associated, that is part of the university. And this opportunity is something that the students really love. And sadly, you know, because of the numbers that they take, lots of students miss out. So if you've been at UNSW and you wanted to do Kingsford, but you weren't able to, we have a special arrangement with Kingsford Legal Centre where they take our students in T2 for their placements. So you can do all your work at Kingsford Legal Centre under the supervision of really fantastically experienced lawyers. We also have a range of other PLT partners. And they are arrangements that we set up at the beginning of the program. We know that work experience is something that stresses students. Where are they going to find their placements? Are they going to be able to learn what they need to? So we've set up about 20 placement partners who care for the students as much as we do. So you can apply to those partners and apply to do your place experience with them. So you could do anything from your 15 days that's required. So as I said, 25 days you can get credit for, and then 15 days according to the rules have to be done after you start your PLT coursework or after you finish it. It cannot be done before your PLT coursework. It has to be done during or after. Okay, I think my colleagues want me to speak about the practicum, so here it is. Now the practicum is it's a choose your adventure. Now this is one of the parts of the program that really takes our PLT program out of the ordinary, because here we give students the opportunity to do something that maybe they missed out on at uni, or maybe they wanted to specialize in, get more of a specialty, but weren't given the opportunities, or wanted to just explore this area a bit more. And so the practicum is an alternative to workplace experience, your 20 or 25 days of workplace experience. And here you'll do a project or something that you might, want to do to further your opportunities to get into the career that you want. So I'll give you an example. We had a couple of students who were really interested in tax law and wanted to be tax lawyers. And they said, one of the things we've wanted to do is to learn how to do applications for tax rulings, and that hadn't been taught anywhere. So we hired a barrister who took them through that process. They did mock applications before her, and she was a King's Counsel actually, and they loved that experience. And within weeks of graduating from PLT, they had jobs in tax law firms because they had that extra specialty. And I've got umpteen number of stories about the practicum, but if you'd like to know a bit more about it, I'm happy to chat to you, or we can send you some information about it. Now, just a note that the practicum does cost an extra roughly about $2,000 if you're a domestic student, and about $3,000 if you're an international student. So in terms of the areas that you can undertake the practicum in, there's adaptive lawyering and leadership, there's technology and innovation, there's social justice and impact, and there's commercial law and enterprise. So if you're interested in something, you don't have to make any decisions now. You don't even have to make the decision in the first month of the program. You can do that, a few months in when you've thought about what you want to do, and come and have a chat to us, and we can work with you to come up with a project or something that would satisfy your needs. Okay. Now, why would you want to study at UNSW? Well, why did I come back to UNSW having taught at other universities? Because this place is magic. And I say that, okay, I'm a bit biased, but the program that we've put together is one that, students love. What they love about it is that we are not your run-of-the-mill PLT program. We do not treat you as a number. We're a smallish program, and the reason for that is because we want to provide that particular support and service to final year law students. It can be daunting, it can be exciting, and we want you to experience the gamut of that in a supported environment. So, as I said, you'll never be a number in our program, and what we've incorporated into the program, the innovations that we've put, are all the things that actually at the moment the PLT competencies that oversee this area are under review, and it's interesting that all the things that they want to put into the program are things that we've already incorporated. So we hope we're doing a few things right, and I will just say this, not as a humble brag, but just as a fact that we have been nominated for a national award. I think we're the only PLT program to have been nominated for that award, and we will find out on Thursday night if we've won. So if you speak to me in the next couple of days and I'm elated, it's because we won. If I'm sad, next time. Okay, so in terms of why UNSW PLT, because UNSW PLT or UNSW generally really, tries to provide students with the experience that they need, where they feel supported. So you learn from industry experts. The practitioner mentors that we have teaching in the program are people, as I said, who care for students just as much as we do, and they're experts in their field. You also get to tap into a network of over 19,000 practicing alumni, and that's, gold. You also have a range of on-campus centres. In the previous screen, you also saw that we had a range of partners such as RACS, Youth Law Australia, Australian Pro Bono Centre, and a whole range of other organisations that, really focus on this justice for all as our ethos. Okay, so next slide, please. So we are ranked first in Australia and we are ranked 12th in the world. We also have a reputation with that we are in the top 30 in terms of employer reputation. And as part of that, we have 2 of the 6 top tier law firms who send all their PLT students to us. And we're just negotiating with 1 more at the moment and possibly 1 further. So in 5 short years, the trust that the law firms are putting in us is huge. We also offer an exclusive career service. Now, this is something that other PLT programs did not offer, but we've always offered it, and I believe that others are coming on board. But ours is one that really, we have fairy godpersons that pop in every now and again and provide our students with amazing opportunities. So we've got a jobs board, we've got a careers board, we've got careers advice. You can go to one of our advisors, talk them through your CV, what opportunities might be good for you. And we also have a thing with our partners at Edge at UNSW. This is our CPD partners. And we've been able to negotiate a deal with them where they allow our students to attend a whole series of webinars, sometimes thousands of dollars worth. And this is, you can undertake this while you're doing the program, if there's something that you're interested in, or you can also do that in your first year afterwards. So lots of value adds that we try to bring forward for our students so that it is an engaging and rewarding experience. Okay, what makes our students stand out? Yeah, let's talk about that. I think as you've seen from Tristan, students who come to us want their PLT to be better lawyers. If you're looking for a ticker box exercise, we are not that. We make sure that our students know the difference between a statement of claim and a pleading. We make sure that our students actually learn, and the better your PLT program is, the better prepared you will be for practice. So what makes our students stand out? As I said, we're first in Australia for employment outcomes. We have a range of industry partners, and that's because of the reputation that we have. Our graduates are career ready. And as I said, you're going to be part of an alumni that's 19,000 and growing in over 90 countries. Okay, program fees. We made sure that this is not in small print, that this is transparent. We charge our graduates coming in from other universities, as well as our PLT law firms, the same price. We don't have any special deals. We are very transparent in our fees. So you can expect to pay, if you're a domestic student, $11,100 for everything. You don't need any extra. We don't charge anything extra for extensions or what's the other thing that people charge for? Resubmissions. We do not charge you anything extra apart from that all-inclusive fee of $1,100. And there is a student SSAF fee, which is goes to the student union, which is ARC, and that's about $150 to $300 a year. But that is the extent of it, and that is imposed on any student at UNSW. And for international students, it's $13,320. So that is for the standard program, and that program is your 4 core courses and your 2 electives and your workplace experience component. Now, if you decided to do the practicum, as I said, that's a couple of $1,000s more, and that's $15,750 for domestic students and $18,900 for international students. The other thing to remember is that we don't charge any application fees. We also do not require you to pay up your fees upfront. We know that that's a huge impost on our students, so you will pay by each census date, and there's 3 or 4 of those during the period that you're with us. We also have fee help available for eligible students, and as a PLT first, we also have 3 Dean's Equity Scholarships, and they're worth $13,000 each, and they are for Indigenous, refugee and financially disadvantaged students. Okay, so if you like what you've heard, we encourage you to apply. In terms of the closing dates, I believe the closing dates for domestic students is, I'm going to start with international students, 14th of July for international students, and I will just need to check when it is for domestic students. I think that's in August, but I will come back to you in a few minutes on that. So that's if you want to start with us on the 8th of September. The immersive starts on the 8th of September, goes till Friday of that week, and then after that your commitment would be roughly about 1 hour per week. Now, if you can't attend the webinars that we have, we do record them. We do also repeat them, so there's a lot of flexibility there as well. Okay, that's it from me, and if you would like to hear more, I have set aside times over the next couple of days for one-on-ones. So if you've got a specific question or you'd like to, work through your particular situation, happy to help, happy to chat to you. You can also send us an email, and you can also talk to our future students team as well. They're fantastic. Okay, now we are going to bring Tristan back, I believe, and we are also going to open up with any questions in the chat. If there's anything that I'm required to answer, nothing so far. But Tristan, maybe if we came back to you, Tristan, can you tell us what you enjoyed about the program, what it was that kind of stood out for you, please?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, look, I think the first thing I would say was I really enjoyed the people I met on the program. So I mentioned a bit earlier that one of the things that drew me to the PLT is that it's designed for people who work and for people with that sort of postgraduate experience. And I think that was reflected really in the people I met there. Some of the people that I studied with were really incredible from all walks of life. Including careers in well-established careers in other fields, people who were well into the completion of their PhD. And so I think just the exposure to that sort of network of people was something that I really enjoyed about the PLT at UNSW. I think the other thing I would say was the quality of the teaching content was another thing that I really enjoyed about the program. One of the standouts of my PLT experience was the Immersive Week, which was conducted in person at the UNSW campus. And one of the great things that was done as part of that Immersive Week was that a number of barristers were brought in to help with teaching the advocacy components of the course. So I was fortunate enough to be able to give submissions or mock submissions in front of a barrister called Richard Perignon, and he gave personalised feedback to every attendee about how we did in our submissions and sort of what he as a barrister was looking for when he was crafting submissions. And then I think that's just such a great skill to have taught to you by someone who's practicing in the legal profession, has been in the legal profession for such a long time. And it has applicability across many ranges of legal work, including in my current role as a Judges Associate at the Supreme Court and the ACT. The ability to be able to craft submissions or arguments, or to write an advice concisely, and to convey a great amount of information in a short period of time is something that barristers are well equipped to do, and that being taught sort of some of those skills and being able to do that as part of the course was really helpful.
Oh, that's great. And there's three things that you've talked about that I wanted to just touch on. One of those things is the assessments that you described. That's something that's really important, because some PLT programs are moving to oral only assessments. And we know that when you're in practice, that's not the only type of assessment that you do. So when you're choosing your PLT program, ask those questions about, do you do the range of assessments that are required in practice? The other thing that you mentioned was the community that you met, the people that you met. And that's really important, because in an online environment that can be difficult, but building those communities of practice is really important. I'm so glad that, you were able to have that experience. And the third thing that you mentioned was in terms of Richard and the feedback that you got. That's something that we prioritize in the program. We give detailed feedback on every assessment, so that the students, it's something that you can actually learn from. So yeah, I'm really glad that you picked up on those. In terms of, you've done a lot, Tristan, when you were describing your trajectory so far, you've done a lot in a short amount of time. Can you share, apart from what you learned from people like Richard, how UNSW PLT helped you to become job ready?
Yes, and I think it really goes towards what I was saying about how the course content, particularly so that sort of degree of being taught about how to make a submission, but in general through the assessment content, and which is really geared towards completing tasks which mirror what you would do in practice across a wide range of sort of types of legal work. And so one of the tasks which stands out to me, which was quite helpful in terms of the work I do now, was when I did the administrative law elective. And there was this task which involved essentially drafting the equivalent of a statement of claim for a client appearing before ACAT in a administrative review dispute. And that was quite a helpful assessment task, just in terms of me getting my head around how, if you were advising a client, firstly, how you would frame that discussion, which is applicable to any sort of legal work you do. And then the other one was being able to craft a sort of an advice or a submission, or any sort of pleading, for example, which has to concisely put into words an issue which may have been running for years. And that is something that I thought was being able to do that in a setting which, of course, wasn't before ACAT, but which was assessed by someone who has appeared before ACAT, and who has practiced before ACAT, and which, in a scenario which plausibly could be before ACAT, was quite helpful in becoming job ready.
No, that's great, because Pamela teaches that course, and I know that she'll be delighted to hear that feedback. So I'll be sure to pass that on. Thanks so much, Tristan. Now, we've got a couple of questions in the chat. If we do PLT while working as a grad, how would we manage full-time and workplace experience of 40 days? Do we need to take days off our graduate placements? If you are working full-time and you are not working in a law or law-related area, we have students who end up doing part of their work in their annual leave, or they take leave, or they find secondments that with their employer if they can get them. So the simple answer to that is yes, you would need to do that, either in terms of taking time off, or we do have a couple of placement opportunities that also do allow some flexibility in terms of nighttime work and weekend work, but that's quite rare. So this requirement that you might need to take that time off to do your workplace experience is something that all PLT providers would have the same response to. Okay, what will the practical experience part look like? Is it similar to a placement that I can know the time and location in advance? Can I choose the location? Yes, you can. And a placement is basically like going into, it's like an internship, going into a workplace and, you know, being part of that environment, learning with supervisors who are experienced practitioners. And I'm going to have, how long will I have for each one? So 40 days, and you can choose. You don't have to do all those 40 days at one particular organisation. You can do it at a range of organisations. There's no rules around that. So there's a lot of flexibility in that sense as well. On the entry requirement,
I did just want to, before you moved on from there, I did just want to pick up. So someone had asked if you can take the placement interstate, and I did my placement at the ACT Supreme Court, which isn't in New South Wales, of course. So yes, you can take the course of the work experience outside of New South Wales.
That's right, and that's great. Thanks for reminding me of that, Tristan, because the other point is that you can be admitted in any jurisdiction in Australia as well. So you can do your practical experience anywhere in Australia, and you can also be admitted anywhere in Australia. Okay, so on the entry requirement, there's a point mentioned that other qualifications considered equivalent from an Australian university or tertiary institution. Can I do a pre-assessment of my international qualification before formal application? And how long is the pre-assessment period? So if you are a internationally admitted lawyer and you would like to work in Australia, and you'd like to get admitted in Australia, you do have to have your qualifications assessed by the admitting authority in the state or territory you are in. So in New South Wales, that's the Legal Profession Admission Board. And so you would provide all your documentation, all your qualifications, and they will assess it. And it can take up to 10 to 12 weeks. So bear that in mind if you are overseas and you're planning to move to Australia, or if you're already here, it can take that amount of time. And so we cannot admit you into our program unless you have that letter from the LPAB saying what subjects it is that you need to do to bridge your qualifications. So when you get that letter back from the admitting authority, the LPAB, it will tell you what subjects you need to do, whether you have to do the whole PLT program or whether it's particular subjects that you need to do. If you have any questions about that, we have put together a very helpful guide, which we'd be happy to send you. So please feel free to contact plt@unsw.edu.au. Okay, when we apply in July, must we have 2 or less law electives remaining at that point in time? Or would our application still be valid with the view that by September we would have less than 2 electives remaining? That's right. So when you start in September, in fact, you actually have until the census date, but to be on the safe side, it would be by the time you start in September, you have to have 2 or less electives remaining. And remember, it is not just law electives, it has to be your electives across any double degrees that you're doing. So let's say, for instance, you've got 3 electives remaining in your arts degree and you want to you've done all your law degree, you cannot start PLT unless you have less than 2 electives remaining in your arts degree. If you have 2 electives remaining in your law degree and you've got 1 elective remaining in your arts degree, you cannot start PLT until you are down to 2 electives across both degrees. That's something that's come in New South Wales in the last couple of months. It may change in the future, but for the moment, that's the advice that we've been given. Okay, well, we are at time, and I think Steph has said we can wrap up now. And if you do have any further questions, please do make a note of those one-on-ones. I'm available tomorrow and Thursday, so please scan that QR code, and I'd love to have a chat with you. And hopefully see you either in the consults or in September. Good luck, everyone. Well done. And congratulations on getting here. See you all.